All right, good evening. I call this meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners to order at 6:30. Grace, will you please take roll?
Alderperson Chandan Kuniger.
Here.
Alderperson Definite Ledvina.
Here.
Alderperson Esser Khan.
Here.
Randy Soki.
Here.
Jim Kneisel.
Here.
Melissa Thiel Collar.
Here.
Connor Mason.
Here.
And James Liga.
Here.
Great, we have quorum. Next on the agenda, number 2, public comment upon matters not on the agenda. Comments made during the public comment period shall pertain only to matters under the jurisdiction of the Board of Park Commissioners. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board under public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on. Action items. Number 1, consideration and possible action to approve the Board of Park Commissioners minutes from the September 19, 2024 meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 2, consideration and possible action on pollinator gardens at De Pere Parks. By the way, Chase is here to answer any of our questions, if we have any for him.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. I think it's a great idea, so good luck, Chase. We look forward to a report next year on how things are going.
Can't wait.
Thanks. Next item. Item 3, consideration possible action to accept $1,000 donation from Greta Johnson for community center chairs and tables.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Greta's the greatest. She's just so.
Very generous of her, and even the additional funds slated for 2025. So thank you. Thank you, Greta. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, consideration and possible action to accept a $2,500 donation from the Wochinske Family Foundation to Recreation Scholarship Fund.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All right. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you to the Wochinske Family Foundation for their continued generosity. Wow. Item 5, consideration and possible action to approve changes to Recreation Scholarship.
Move to approve.
I'll second. Discussion. Paula's here if we'd like to ask her any questions.
Maybe a review of the changes would be a good idea for people who might be.
For people at
watching
home, that'd be great. Paula, would you mind just stepping up to a mic and giving us a rundown on the changes, please?
Sure. So basically, we are requesting to increase an additional $125 per year per family to an additional $130. And that would cover the increased costs in the pool passes, both in season and preseason. And then I think the biggest change would be to allow eligibility from just youth to all residents, regardless of your age. So I think that's important. We have had some people coming in requesting assistance, but obviously they didn't meet the criteria of youth. And then lastly would be add that scholarships are available for sports programs and leagues and player fees for adult leagues. Just clarifying that because it really wasn't listed. So those were the major 3 changes.
I think those are great changes.
Okay.
Any other questions for Paula? Thank you, Paula. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, consideration possible action to approve special programming for Nelson Pavilion. I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Discussion regarding this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I can't
Motion
wait for
carry.
goat yoga.
Go you.
I'm looking forward to puppy and goat yoga. So, item 7, consideration and possible action to approve changes in the ash tree grant.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. Discussion. Jim.
Again, maybe outlining just a little bit, so if it's improved access to the
Yeah,
trees.
the original policy that we had with the grant
anyone that lost 2 ash trees was eligible for 1 free ash tree. The change would be now we would go back to the people that have lost ash trees. So if they lost 2 and they received 1, we will offer them another one. If someone lost 1 ash tree, they were not offered a free ash tree. We would go back to those people and offer them. So anyone that was, let's just say, shortchanged a little bit, we will offer them a free tree. Once we run the course with that list, we would then open it up to first come, first serve.
Jim?
So to clarify, I didn't quite understand this. I wanted to make sure. This could be just somebody who's not in the parkway? Somebody
No,
else?
this is strictly
Strictly
these are strictly street trees.
Okay, thank you.
Marty, how many trees approximately do we have available?
I believe there's about 200 that are, the grant would cover 250 trees and we only gave out about 50.
I hope we have some folks listening out there because it'd be great to plant more trees in the parkway. Thanks, Marty. Other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 8, consideration possible action to approve the 2023-2024 year-end financial statements for the De Pere Ice Arena. Marty, I've just got a question. I feel like in years past, we've received this document earlier than November, or am I just not?
Grace is probably answer better than I will.
We had it, but we didn't have the narrative. So I requested the narrative from Don.
All right, thank you. It just kind of like the timing seemed not normal for me from years past, so.
We didn't have a meeting last month either.
I'm sorry, what?
We didn't have a meeting last month either. That's
True. There's part of me that makes me think that, like, when Lisa was on the board, Alderperson Rafferty, that I thought we had done this earlier in the year. But anyway, we need a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion regarding the year-end financial statements? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, discussion items. Update from Brown County on the community gardens at Lions Trailside Park for 2024.
And Randy, so you have the report. Rachel actually is here. So if the report's great, her night's pretty quick and she can bug out. Or if you have questions for her, or if you'd like a little bit of a verbal summary, we could do that as well. It's up to you.
Rachel, we're on a roll tonight with the summary, so if you wouldn't mind stepping up, it'd be great to hear from your point of view, like a quick summary.
Do you all have it in front of you? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. 'Cause there's some photos there too. Mm-hmm. So hello again.
Hi.
So yeah, this season was much quieter than last season. I think the biggest issue was the weather, and that revolved around flooding in the garden early on in the spring, and that led to several of the garden plots being unable to be used. So if you look at the second page, that right-hand side, that photo, those are, I think it was about 3 plots total that just completely were left with standing water, so those gardeners were unable to use those plots. Some gardeners did report back less produce was yielded this season compared to normal. Again, I think a lot of it came down to weather. We saw that trend at other gardens as well. So just a lot of rain early on, seeds being washed out, plants being stunted. But as you can tell from the other photos, it did result in some flourishings. So It was all right in terms of produce and production. Gardeners did the best that they could with what we had. There's some quotes here from other gardeners from the Lions Garden, so you can look through that as well. One thing that did a positive was the flooding that we saw across all of the gardens really made us kind of question some land management practices. So getting some systems that will help drainage. So if this trend does continue, the gardens won't suffer as much. So that would look like cover cropping, getting some crops in there basically to help the soil is what it comes down to. So it was quite eye-opening across the board. So grateful for that, a lot of learning experiences, and just moving forward the best way possible to make sure that the land management practices are, positively affecting the gardeners and the ground too. So, yeah, it's kind of an interesting season.
And we haven't heard anything from the neighbors out there, right?
I have not heard anything personally. Through the grapevine, I heard one thing, but it never amounted to anything. So I'm not quite sure how much footing that has. But yeah, again, I think a lot of that came down to, and when I did hear that comment through the grapevine, I ran immediately out to the garden to check on things, and it looked really good. So I'm not quite sure where that was coming from internally. So yeah, we kept things way more tidy than last season, definitely. So yeah. Any questions? Great.
Thank you for coming. And
Yeah,
thank you for
no
giving us
problem.
the summary. We
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
You're welcome. All right, next up, discussion item number 2, discussion regarding future planning of Southwest Park.
So a while back, if you recall, we had someone requesting to put in a sandpit volleyball court at Southwest. And so then the request of the park boards was, okay, before we go and do anything, let's try to get a plan and not just slap things out there. So bear with me here. In your packet, I put together a very crude outline of the park. Even though the park is an extremely large park, there's not a whole lot of space left to do anything with. So if you look at the park, this area up here, so I would call it the northeast corner, it's outlined in purple, that is a relatively unused space. The area outlined in purple right here is a unused space. It also comes with some headaches because that is where the old homestead used to be. So there's a silo that's there. There's an abandoned well that is there. So there's going to be some problems in trying to develop that part of not insurmountable, but some challenges. And then this area here, this whole wooded area is all unprogrammed space. However, that space is extremely limited as far as what you can do. There's a creek that runs through there, so it's mostly in the waterway. So you're not going to be able to put a soccer field or any type of true facilities in that section. So you're very limited with what's available. Moving forward, I wanted to bring this because of the limited space that you have in the park. There's 2 ways of going about putting together a revised master plan. One, we could reach out to the community and ask what's important to them at that park. Then we could look at what their priorities levels are, and then go ahead and develop a concept or 2. Or we can do it internally, what we think would work best based on our understanding and data that we have and knowledge that we have, and bring it back, obviously put it out possibly on social media for comment, and then go that direction. So trying to get a sense of what direction you would like to go with when it comes to a final master plan.
Jim?
Marty, thanks. Just what is at the very top there? Is that park property or is that somebody else's property?
Right here?
You go way to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole open area there, what's partly wooded and
It's right over.
Just looks like
So-
a retention pond up there.
Yeah, this is an actual pond, a retention pond.
yeah.
That is actually part of the city of De Pere's property. I didn't show you, there's quite a bit of property that goes this way. That is city of De Pere's property. I didn't show you that for purposes, it's the same type of property that you see here. It's all low and wooded. However, we're one parcel away from getting to Creamery Road. So if that would ever come available, we then have the ability to have an accessible trail go all the way up to Creamery Road and then potentially the Preserve Trail. That's pushing us.
What's in the open area? Is that,
This right here,
nope, further to the left?
Right here?
Up there, yeah.
that particular, I will have to stand, if I am not mistaken, I don't believe that is City of De Pere's property. I'd have to follow back up.
I'm on
I don't,
time. It's Lawrence.
yeah,
It's owned by Lawrence?
yeah.
If I'm
Oh.
clicking on the right one, yeah.
Do they, I wonder what they have going there.
Yeah, I could follow up on Dime, but the reason I didn't focus on that area, to get from this activity space to there, it would take a superhuman effort due to the creek that is there.
Oh.
So I'm not, I didn't really deal with anything north of the park as you see it right here, because it's really not accessible to get there. So I'm dealing with strictly the space that is in Southwest Park as the community sees it.
Okay. The area allotted for the disc golf,
Mm-hmm.
is that something like what we have over at
It would,
Legion, size-wise?
So it would actually be smaller. So the little bit of research I did on this, there are things called pocket. So you've heard the terminology called a pocket park. Mm-hmm. Well, this is a pocket disc golf course. It's not intended to be like a full-fledged disc golf course. It's intended to be more of a beginner's course, or like if you think of terms of golf, like a par 3 course. So that's what it would be designed as.
Okay.
The reason I'm suggesting it is that for the last 10 years, ever since, Jim, you helped put in the disc golf course at Legion, we have been asked very regularly about what about the west side for disc golf.
Okay. I wondered if so you probably could fit 4 or 5 short holes in
You could, if we got creative, we could actually fit as many as probably 8 or 9.
Wow.
But again, remember, they're training type holes, not, yeah, you're
Not competition, so
Correct.
to speak.
What comes to mind is if that property up there is Lawrence, is there a way to partner with them and maybe make a better course that goes through that area to the north, and maybe they have better access?
Going back in time, we actually worked with a group that wanted to put a disc golf course in the preserve. After we sat down and looked at it in length, it would pose an incredible amount of challenges.
Yeah.
So we never really went down that road. If you look at the property going to the north, those same challenges exist.
It's pretty similar topography and up and down,
Yeah.
and heavily wooded and creek.
Extremely wooded, extremely hilly, and extremely low.
Could make for an interesting game, but anyway, thanks. I just was curious about that.
Connor.
So, like, how often are all of the soccer fields used? Because, like, when I've played soccer there, like, at most, I'm seeing, like, 4 of the fields used at a time. I know there's, like, might be other instances where there's more, but, like, if we could split up maybe one of the soccer fields into, that would yield more space than just for the volleyball court
Yeah.
fit or whatever,
It's a Good question. There's some restrictions we have when it comes to the soccer fields out at Southwest. So the large 6 fields are, you could say, are under contract. So we received a donation from Rec Soccer and Select Soccer, and that agreement actually goes through, I want to say it's another year or two, and then they'll probably be looking at re-upping it. But while that agreement is intact, these 6 soccer fields are part of that agreement. This soccer practice area down here is also tied, it was developed with a donation, and the contingency with the donation is that it is used for soccer purposes. So really, we are very tied to these 6 fields and this practice area as soccer. Can it be used in conjunction? Like, could we put football out here? Yeah, we could do that, as long as it stays, though, for soccer-related activities. The only thing that really is not tied, we call this field number 7. That there's potential that you could look at removing that. But I do know that that's from both soccer groups. They're hoping that field stays.
So we're fairly limited among us.
We're very limited in trying to remove a soccer field and do something else. Yeah. The other thing, too, is with these 6 fields, when you consider the area, these 6 fields are very highly regarded. And part of the reason they're highly regarded is that we do rotate them so that they're not pounded day in, day out, all day long, all summer long. Because if that would happen, they would end up looking like a dirt play field. So they do get rotated. So there is gaps out there, but those gaps are really for a purpose, because we're trying to rest the fields so that they can thrive.
James.
I know it was mentioned about the parking issue that happens out there when they have capacity issues. When that happens, are cars parking on that main road just right out front?
They're not allowed to, actually. So that's a great question. That's one of the reasons why, where's my cursor, why we're proposing some type of parking in this area. But on Lawrence Drive, as the city rule applies, if there is no curb, you are not allowed to park along the street. There's no curb out along this section of Lawrence Drive, therefore you're not allowed to park on the street. What people do is they go park into this neighborhood here, and then they have to actually physically walk across Lawrence Drive, which quite honestly is probably not the greatest situation in the world considering our crossing, but you're right, when there are large soccer tournaments here, parking is a challenge. There's no doubt. But again, I go back to, that's why we are proposing some type of parking here. I like to tell you, I'd like to propose a paved surface, but I don't know if that's the right answer. I mean, there's green parking lots, if you ever heard of those. They're actual pavers with grass and turf built into it. So like, you can park on it and it's not going to rip it up, but if you leave it alone, it'll kind of look like sparse little grass, and it kind of blends in with the park. So that would be great if there's not drawbacks to it. And then I did throw in pickleball because, quite honestly, that is the hottest button that can be pressed right now. And there would be room for a pickleball facility and parking in that purple section. So again, I go back to the question of, would you want me to pursue getting an actual conceptual plan drafted from a consultant with these amenities shown, or do you want to reach out to the community, get ideas, and then go back to the drawing board?
I always like to ask the community first, but with such limited space and restrictions, it seems kind of counterintuitive if you get a lot of feedback that is unimplementable. So for that reason, I would suggest the route of getting what could be done and then getting feedback.
Again, keep in mind, I still think you would request community input, but it would be after a conceptual idea would be developed.
Jim.
back to the disc golf course.
Mhm.
Is there another location for a potential course that would, or is this like all we can do?
You know, if you look at the west side, you know, we're pretty limited. I would say the only other park that has a potential would be VFW, but I have concerns about that because you have tennis court, pickleball court there. You have the open shelter that's right there, and people blend out into the open shelter. So that would pose and that's limited space. Samantha Park is probably not much bigger than the space that you're looking at.
What about Patriot Park?
Patriot Park, we looked at a disc golf, and that was in a comp plan a long time ago. The challenge we have there is that rec soccer uses that still for their small,
like
like
U6
6,
or
7, or whatever. Yeah, the younger kids. So as soon as you have an active soccer field out in the middle of a disc golf course, that's probably not going to play well either. Stray frisbees thrown into the line of fire of soccer may not be the greatest thing. If soccer would go away, then I think at Patriot, then I think Patriot Park becomes a very interesting location for a disc golf course.
Are there enough soccer fields or too many, or where are we? I mean,
Well,
sure they want as many as
Jim,
they
I can
possibly
we have
get.
someone from Select Soccer here,
Yeah.
but I will tell you this: ever since I've been here, and I think it's a debatable question, they will tell you there's never enough soccer fields. So I keep in mind that when it comes to Patriot, the soccer field that's there is for little kids. These fields at Southwest are not.
Even the little one there?
Yeah, that's actually not that little.
Oh.
That's a medium-sized field. So the one at Patriot's even small, quite a bit smaller.
Probably like half that size.
Are we not using Brazier for soccer anymore?
I believe they are for rec soccer for small kids again.
I'm kind of curious to get an idea of how many soccer fields we have. There seems to be an awful lot of them. Martin Park has, what, 3 of
3.
them? And
Brazier isn't formal. They just bring in little
Homes.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just green space that they use for soccer.
Yeah, and that's a challenging park. And I don't think they want to use it, quite honestly, because there's no parking lot there. Keep in mind.
You know, if we'd like to have an answer, I bet we could open the meeting and get.
Well, bear in mind, like Brazier, though, that's rec soccer.
Yeah.
This is select soccer.
Okay.
They don't use those fields. So our select soccer here, they are strictly and solely out at Southwest Park. They're not using any other fields throughout the city. They might use others for practice from time to time, but they are strictly out at Southwest.
Are these the only ones we're committed to having by donation?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Well, Marty, getting back to your original question.
Correct.
I agree with Amy completely that
Let's
if,
put that on the record, please.
if you could bold that and highlight it. If there's more space to potentially develop, I think it'd be great to get a lot of community input. But I think staff has a trained eye on what we have available. I think it'd be great to get some ideas from staff and then solicit feedback based on what ideas we have and see about tweaking from there. So, but this is a discussion item, so we don't need
Correct.
a motion.
Correct.
In fact, we can't.
So I
do a
think,
motion.
so based on what I'm hearing, we'll go ahead, move forward with a conceptual design based on the ideas there, and then we'll seek out community input and then bring back to Park Board. Okay,
Yes. Thank you.
that helps.
There you go. All right, next item on the discussion list is discussion of naming of new park in Waterview Heights subdivision.
So in my time here, we have never been through the naming of a park. So this is new to me. So I'm going to make the guess that it's new to everybody else. So I am just putting on my assumption hat that if we're not careful with the naming of a park, it could spiral wickedly out of control. So, I want to try to get it on record as far as what direction you would like to go in attempting to name this park. So the very first option would be reaching out to the community for ideas. I don't want to say it's not a bad idea at all, but be careful if we reach out to the community for ideas and there's a big wave of one idea for the park to be named and you don't like it, it's not going to be fun. So, that's the drawback. The other option is for the park board, to defer to council. Another option is for the park board just to come up with a slew of ideas, and then we start eliminating one by one until we finally get to one. So looking for direction on which way you would like to take it, because that park is, our next topic is talking about the actual master planning of it, but which direction you'd like to go with it.
Melissa.
I'm just drawing on my own experience in my job. We don't have a policy that guides this. We don't have guiding principles. We don't. So, do we as a park board want to establish what we think? Like, should it be after someone from De Pere, a historical figure from De Pere? Should it be after something of social significance? Because I have been a part of this for naming schools, and it definitely can go sideways. But if there were some principles that we could at least follow to get to an idea, I think that would make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I questioned our administration and our legal office, and the only policy that, and directive that we have is that it's the park board's job.
Well,
So,
the park
I mean,
board wants to create a policy. Wants a policy.
I mean, what is the timeline? Like, would we have time to look at other communities and see what their policies are?
we could we can go around and check to see if they have a naming policy. I think I know the answer, but I guess until I reach out to communities, I don't know. 'Cause bear in mind, naming of parks throughout the state doesn't happen a whole lot. So I'm going to guess not many people have a policy because they just don't do this very much, and they just deal with it one by one as they get them. But I can certainly do that. I can certainly reach around, the state and see if anyone has.
And just as a follow-up, because I think another piece of this could be also including the policy on renaming of parks, because if we get a big donation from somebody, if we have, something of historical significance that would cause us to want to rename a park, what would that look like and what would those procedures be?
Most of those in philanthropic giving have a generational timeout.
Right.
If it's 2 or 3 generations.
That's a good point, too. Marty, Jim's got something for you, too.
Yeah, maybe there's some significance to the history of that land, I could look into too. But what about selling it to the highest bidder?
The name?
Naming rights.
Well, it's a neighborhood park though, isn't it?
Sure is.
Yeah, it is a neighborhood park.
There's gonna be a lot of,
But there's nobody in the neighborhood yet, right?
No, there
Oh, yeah,
is.
it's full.
Yeah, it's
Full?
well, it's not full,
My
but
opinion, it's full.
the homes are they are going up very fast, which there's another problem that's coming our way, and I'll explain it at the next agenda item. But
Not that really matters to the name of the park either. I mean, Legion Park is not Legion Park for any particular reason for its setting, right? Or Brazier Park is, I guess that was land they got from trading something with
yeah,
another owner or through the bank downtown. But I mean, we're always short of money.
can I?
Sure.
But to Jim's point, if we're going to do naming rights, then we definitely need a policy.
Well,
because
right.
That is
Clearly.
dangerous territory.
Well, Marty, I think we've got some. I think you've heard enough to get
Yeah,
going.
so what I'll do is I'll check on historical significance. I'll check with other communities in their policy, and I'll see where that gets me. Hopefully there's something out there, and then we'll come back with it.
And if you seem to be striking out on parks, maybe other communities have naming policies around other items, whether it's buildings or something else that maybe we could
Sure.
apply somehow to this. Shayna.
How did we do the Southern Bridge naming? Did we open that up to?
No, we just went with what Dean said.
Well, no, people submitted ideas though, but was it
Yeah.
staff and council?
I don't, well, if it was staff, it wasn't department heads. So I believe, I was on the outside of that, but I was hearing about it, but I thought that the mayor and Larry asked the council for ideas, they collaborated them, and then they just whittled it down until you finally came up with one.
They have a name? What's the name? The Subdivision.
Well,
No, it's
What?
what did we name? I don't even know.
What is
Isn't it millennium? No, I
generation.
can't remember.
generations?
Generation?
Well,
Because it took generations to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, many, many.
Many, yeah.
I wanted coalesce.
I know you
better.
People just gonna call it Southern Bridge.
James, did you have something to add?
Yeah. So obviously a city has a lot of like streets in it, and you got to name streets too. How do we go about naming a street?
It's mostly from the developer.
Okay.
Good question.
The bridge downtown isn't named, is it?
It's a Claude Alley.
Alloway.
Oh, Claude Alloway, yeah, for sure.
Do you want
Okay.
more?
Nope,
Okay.
I don't think I'm gonna get any more.
A nod to water, Marty, would be fun.
What's that?
A nod to water would be fun for if it's something just simple, right?
Yeah.
If it's a play on words for the division that it's in, that would be cute.
Mm-hmm.
That would
A water park?
Waterview.
Water park.
The water park.
And then everyone's
That's going to
like,
cause so much
"Aw."
confusion.
Yeah.
Please no.
All right, next discussion item. Regarding the park development and master plan.
So, this last year, we requested money in 2025 to develop the park. That was denied. At the pace homes are going, I would say half, maybe even more, will have homes on the street that the park is on by the end of next summer. Ideally, to me, it'd be, well, there's two ways. One, it's ideal to me to get community input, develop the park, and then when people move in, they know what they're moving in next to. Another way to do it is wait till it's fully developed, interview the community, get the ideas, and then put it in. I think that's challenging because if you have one homer that's ballistic, they want a playground, and the neighbor on the other side is ballistic, they don't want a playground, where does that end? Ultimately, it's the park board's decision, but you end up creating these internal fights, I think, which worries me. We may not have a choice in the matter because, again, we don't have money, and I think there's going to be homes there already next year. If we request money in 2026 and get it, I think there's an opportunity to survey most of the area, get some input, and develop, still have some people be able to develop the park and they know what they're moving into. But we're already behind the eight ball where there's going to be homes there. So, some of this might, I don't want to say is mute, but ultimately I'm looking for, does the park board want to put together a conceptual idea, or two, put it out to the community? Do we want to wait until the area is developed, survey the community, get their ideas, then develop a plan? There's multiple ways we can go with this, and ultimately, I want to try to see which way you want to go.
Marty, we have a number of neighborhood parks in our city currently, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have a pretty good handle on what works well in a neighborhood park and what doesn't. And I think based on the experience of having neighborhood parks, I think it might be best if the staff develops a concept and brings it back to us. Because
We can certainly do that.
I mean, I think about the wide variety of options. You could have 50 or 100 different people think about one. What should the park look like? And somebody wants a climbing tower, and somebody else wants, a well, and somebody else wants an archery range, and you're like, hold on, none of those seem to fit. And then, Melissa?
Marty, with Kiwanis Park being relatively in the same vicinity or neighborhood area as well, what would that change what that neighborhood park would look like, or would you try and differentiate between the two parks?
No, I don't think that they're both quantified as mini/neighborhood parks. So when you look at its distance, they're actually serving a different population. So like they could have this exact same amenities, and I don't think you're hurting, and overlapping. Sledding Hill, maybe that's that's more of a regional type facility. At Kiwanis, I don't know if you want to call that a sledding hill, but I mean, many kids it is. I don't think the location of Kiwanis impacts what we should or shouldn't put at this new park,
Okay.
at our new water park.
We're not calling it a water park.
I said not.
I do think, I put it in the memo, I do think there's some limitations that you can just throw out. Like, you can't put a baseball diamond in. I don't think you can put any high activity type structure in there. There's no parking.
No
So,
pickleball court.
no, probably not. No, tennis court, all that kind of, that's not for this environment. A playground, I think, is almost a foregone conclusion in some capacity, but what else, that I don't know. I mean, we can certainly look at ideas and try to piecemeal it together, as your suggestion, Randy, and come up with maybe one or two thought processes. We can certainly do that.
If there are no objections, why don't you do that, please?
Okay.
All right, next item on the agenda is staff update on donation. We're moving on to staff updates. Staff update on donation from De Pere Baseball to improve Kelly Danen and Southwest Park baseball diamonds.
So De Pere Baseball actually gave a pretty sizable donation to improve the diamonds. It was like almost $20,000 worth of value. It would have came to October, right at the last minute, but as you know, timing didn't work, and their work was wanting to be done. So we sent it to council, they approved it, and I'm just doing it as an update to you. Holiday Light Show, please put on your calendars. It starts December 12th. We are in the process of starting the preparations for it. We are going to have a ceremonial plugging in of the lights at 5 o'clock. And on December 12th, so the mayor's going to do it, just like in Christmas or vacation.
Clark.
And that will be the start to the walking event. So on December 12th, it is a walking event only. And then it actually, in addition to December 12th for the walking event, we actually have Santa will be present in the Nelson Pavilion.
No, I know him. Is that Thursday?
That is a Thursday, so from 5 to 9 o'clock. And there will be a few surprises along the way that will make people's jaws drop. If you happen to see our marketing, we are telling everybody it's coming. It's coming.
The clown?
No. We're not telling you what it
Merry
is.
Christmas like it, yes.
So please put on your
We didn't have a
calendars.
fireplace in the Nelson Family Pavilion for Santa to
Reindeers?
Randy Selke's fireplace.
So anyway,
Can we have that be the park?
so 2025 budget, so budget was approved. So we are already fast and furious on a number of things. Willems Playground Project, believe it or not, I mean, this seems really old and archaic, but this was an update from before, but Willems Playground is fully complete and operational. And last, the dog ordinance. So the dog ordinance also seems archaic, but I'm glad it was postponed to now. So the dog ordinance is up and running. People are in the parks with their dogs. The interesting note is that we have already received complaints about people in the parks with their dogs not on a leash. So I just revisited with our PD about trying to track them down. Our staff is, when they've seen it, they tried to educate. So it'll take a little more education, with our community. But hopefully people get the message that they can't let their dogs run unleashed.
Jim.
Do we have enough signage, do you think, up? Or is there any?
No, we put up basically what we did is we put up signage, the exact same locations, same number as all of our other locations. I am leery about signage, and the reason I say that is that there's no perfect science to it. If we put up too many, now the park looks littered with signage and no one reads it. They become bulletin board blind. If you don't put up enough signage, then people, plain and simple, don't even see it. So we try to find this balance where we put them at key locations where people are apt to go into the park. So for instance, at VFW Park, people enter that park probably 150 different locations. I can't put up 150 signs. We hit the main corridors into the park, and that's where we put our signage.
We were somewhere and saw a real clever sign that said, "Even good dogs must be on a leash." Because that's the first thing people tell you. Well, my dog's a good dog, but it has to be on a leash.
We've been told that already, and I believe they're a good dog.
Well, no, but I mean,
that's the rule. I mean, the rule is they got to be on a leash.
I think a clever message on a few signs might be helpful in some of the bigger parks, but
I thought Jim was going to volunteer to use his dogs to make some educational videos that we could post on social media.
They're not good dogs, generally.
Is your dog talk?
Only at squirrels.
Reason I say, if you look at the Marty's minutes, my dog Hank was talking.
Oh, okay. I think I did see that. Yeah.
So anyway, that's all I have for updates.
How many complaints?
Is
it just a few, or is it?
Yeah,
more than
I would not quantify them as we are being flooded with complaints. I would say there's probably been about a half dozen.
Okay, so the other day I was walking by Legion, and somebody was taking their dog on the disc golf course. It was leashed on a real short leash.
Mm-hmm.
Is
They
that
can do that.
considered a play area where you're not supposed to?
No, they're. Let me take that back. That's a great question. My interpretation would be they are allowed to do that. So the way the ordinance reads is that they're not allowed to be on playgrounds, playground fall surfacing, buildings, and athletic fields.
Okay.
So is disc golf course an athletic field? I'm not so sure that I would buy into that.
It's
It's
not
more
like
of a
baseball
course.
field where you would want to
Yeah.
damage it or. Yeah. Okay.
Future agenda items for Marty? Or Paula? Or anyone else? A motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We are adjourned. I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.